Today is Friday, August 29th, 2025. Welcome to your daily news update on Blip Brief, small but almost everything updated daily. All right, let's dive straight into the Harka Pulse today. It seems the Indian equity markets have had, well, another rough day. That's right, a second consecutive day of losses. The Nifty 50 closed down around 0.8%,
Yeah.
and the BSE Sensex fell by about 0.9%. So what's really driving this? What's the story behind these numbers?
Well, a big piece of it, maybe the main piece right now, is this escalating tension between the U.S. and India over tariffs. It's casting a pretty big shadow.
Definitely seems like it.
Yeah, and beyond that, there's just a lack of, strong positive triggers. Markets need good news sometimes, and we're not really getting it. We're seeing banking and IT sectors, typically strong performers, lagging a bit,
Okay.
and foreign portfolio investors. They're selling shares, which adds to the downward pressure. It's sort of a confluence of factors.
Right, a bit of a perfect storm. So is this just an India story, or are we seeing similar caution globally?
Yeah. It's more mixed globally, actually. Asian markets were kind of all over the place today.
Waiting on something.
Exactly. Everyone's got an eye on key U.S. inflation data that's due out. Interestingly, U.S. stocks actually hit new highs yesterday, the S&P 500, an all-time high.
Wow, okay. So strength there, but
But that very strength fuels concerns, persistent inflation worries. If the U.S. economy is running hot, it makes it harder for the Fed to justify cutting rates.
right, the rate cut anticipation.
Precisely. The market's hoping for cuts, but it all hinges on these economic numbers, inflation, jobs,
Yeah.
and of course, geopolitics. The Russia-Ukraine situation still impacts commodity prices, adding another layer of complexity.
It really is a global balancing act. Okay, let's zoom back to India. Within this downturn, were there any bright spots, any specific companies managing to swim against the tide? There were a few gainers. Titan Company was up, what, about 1.2%?
Yeah, around there.
Larson and Toubro saw a decent climb too, maybe 0.5 to 0.7%. And Maruti Suzuki, Axis Bank, had smaller gains. But the loser's side, that looked pretty stark, especially in tech. Shriram Finance down almost 4%.
Yeah, that's a significant drop.
And then HCL Tech, TCS, Infosys, all down between roughly 1.9% and 2.9%.
Ouch. It really highlights the divergence, doesn't it? You see some domestic-focused companies like Titan holding up, maybe benefiting from consumer spending, while the big IT players, heavily reliant on exports to the U.S. and Europe, are feeling the pressure from those global headwinds and maybe the tariff talk, too. Foreign investors often sell these first when sentiment turns cautious.
Makes sense. And what about gold? Often a safe haven.
Absolutely. Gold jumped highest in 2 weeks. It's up about 0.3% to $3,477 an ounce. Classic flight to safety amid political uncertainty.
Again, the rupee. It's been falling.
It actually managed a small gain today, snapped a 5-day losing streak, closing 6 pays higher, likely helped by a slightly weaker U.S. dollar globally, and probably some intervention from the RBI to provide support.
Okay, let's really dig into the main event causing waves. This huge 50% extra U.S. tariff on most Indian goods. That's not a small adjustment.
No, it's definitely not. It's a major headwind. The immediate impact. A clear downside risk for India's economy, especially those export sectors.
We're seeing it in the markets already.
Exactly. A 50% tariff just makes Indian products much more expensive in the U.S. That hits revenues, potentially jobs, growth. It's a direct hit.
So how is India responding? I saw Finance Minister Sitharaman assured support for exporters.
Yes, the government is signaling support, trying to cushion the blow and protect livelihoods. Diplomatically, India is saying it's, quote, hopeful to get back on the table soon for trade talks with the U.S.
With reversing these tariffs being key, obviously.
Obviously. It's interesting. Nomura is actually forecasting the U.S. might cut these tariffs by half, down to 25% by November.
Oh, really? So is this maybe just a really aggressive negotiating tactic from the U.S. or a genuine long-term policy shift?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Yeah. Is it leverage or is it the new reality? India's diplomatic push is clearly aimed at de-escalation, but we need to see how the U.S. responds.
And lurking behind all this is the issue of Russian oil imports, right? The U.S. stance seems quite confrontational. Trump's trade advisor, Navarro, even called it Modi's war.
Yes, very strong language there, accusing India of fueling the conflict. It's quite pointed.
But not everyone in the U.S. agrees. Democrats are pointing out China buys more Russian oil without facing these kinds of tariffs.
That's correct. There's criticism within the U.S. about singling out India. But look, India's position has been, well, remarkably consistent.
That's so.
They've essentially chosen to absorb the economic pain of these extra tariffs rather than stop buying Russian oil. In fact, imports are expected to climb in September.
Wow, so a clear strategic calculation.
Absolutely. It seems India is prioritizing its energy security and maintaining its strategic autonomy, even if it means friction with the U.S. on trade. It's a calculated risk.
And this isn't just a US-India thing anymore, is it? Brazil is now considering retaliation.
Yes, Brazil facing similar 50% tariffs and now talking about hitting back. That's significant because it suggests this could spread.
A wider trade dispute?
Potentially. If more countries get drawn in, it makes the whole global economic picture much more uncertain, more fragmented, more challenging for everyone.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly. Despite these headwinds, there was some positive domestic news for India. Industrial output.
Yes, the IIP data for July came in quite strong, rose to a 4-month high of 3.5%.
Driven by manufacturing mostly.
Primarily, yes. It's a good sign. Factories producing more, contributes to GDP, jobs. A welcome counterpoint to the trade worries.
And the consumer side. Festive season spending looks set for a record.
Yeah, projections are for 1.2 lakh crore in online festive shopping. That's huge, roughly $14.5 billion US. A nice turnaround after a few slower years.
But there's a catch. Credit lines are tight.
Seems so. Brands and retailers are flagging that issue. So consumers want to spend, but accessing credit might be tougher, which could, put a bit of a damper on things.
On the plus side, though, factory jobs seem to be paying better.
Definitely a positive trend there. Average pay up almost 29% between 2018-19 and 2023-24, reaching 3.7 lakh annually.
And Sikkim leading the way.
Impressively so, yes.
Yeah.
Average pay there at 7.1 lakh. So rising wages in manufacturing could boost purchasing power for many.
We're also seeing some major corporate moves. Big investment in Yes Bank.
Huge news. Japan's SMBC putting in hot 16,000 crore, that's about $1.83 billion, through equity and debt. A massive boost for Yes Bank's balance sheet.
That's a big vote of confidence. And Adani Group.
Also strong numbers. Their EBITDA crossed 190,000 crore for the year ending June 2025. The June quarter itself saw over 23,000 crore, helped significantly by their cement business.
And NLCO planning big investments too.
That's right. National Aluminium Company planning 30,000 crore over 5 years for expansion.
So despite the global uncertainty, these companies are making significant long-term bets on India.
It certainly looks that way. These aren't small commitments. They signal underlying confidence in India's growth potential, even with the current challenges. It's strategic. We also saw the Indigo co-founder's family trust selling a stake.
Ah, yes, Rakesh Gangwal, about 1.3%.
Yes, for nearly 3,000 crore. Part of their planned phased exit strategy.
But it's not all rosy. Aviation sector facing bigger losses.
Yes, ICRA is forecasting losses could double to 10,500 crore in FY26. Geopolitics, trade headwinds hitting airlines hard.
And supply chain issues still biting. TVS Motor facing a rare earth crunch for EVs.
Exactly. It highlights ongoing vulnerabilities. Specific sectors remain exposed to supply disruptions or raw material shortages.
And the tablet market's down quite a bit.
Yeah, it declined over 32% in the first half of 2025. Could be changing consumer habits, maybe market saturation, or just tough competition. It raises questions about resilience in certain areas.
What about the IPO market? Any buzz there?
There is. Grow, the online investment platform, got the green light from SEBI for its IPO. Could be $700 billion to $1 billion, potentially one of India's biggest fintech listings.
Interesting. And Amanta Healthcare IPO opening soon, though Vikram Solar had a bit of a flat debut.
Yes, mixed fortunes in the IPO space as well.
Switching to global diplomacy, PM Modi is in Tokyo.
Correct. A 2-day visit meeting Japanese PM Ishiba, focus on economic and tech ties. There's talk of a deal on Japan's Shinkansen bullet trains, the E10 model.
And potentially a meeting with China's President Xi Jinping. That sounds significant.
Very significant. It's expected to happen Sunday at the SCO summit in Tianjin. Reports are even mentioning a, quote, secret letter from Xi to President Murmu that might have helped kickstart this outreach.
A secret letter. Fascinating. What could this meeting mean?
Well, after a period of pretty high tension, any high-level dialogue between India and China is noteworthy. It suggests an effort, perhaps quiet, to manage differences and find common ground. Crucial for regional stability and India's strategic balancing act.
Definitely one to watch. And back to the Fed signs pointing towards a rate cut soon.
There are hints. Fed Governor Christopher Waller mentioned weakening job numbers and suggested a 25 basis point cut in September might be needed. He even hinted at more cuts later.
So the data dependency in action.
Exactly. They're walking that tightrope control inflation, but don't stall the economy. Weakening data nudges them towards easing policy.
And just a few other global points.
Yeah.
U.S. Q2 GDP got revised up.
Yes, to 3.3% growth. Apparently, AI investment helped offset some of the tariff impacts.
Yeah.
Interesting dynamic there.
And a Fed governor suing President Trump.
Lisa Cook, yes, challenging his attempt to dismiss her. Meanwhile, the situation in Ukraine remains intense. Russia launched more missile and drone strikes.
Prompting EU and UK reactions.
Summoning Russian envoys, yes. And adding to the mix, North Korea's Kim Jong-un pledged support for Russia, concerning alliances forming there. NATO is also reportedly stepping up searches for Russian submarines.
A lot happening on the global stage. Okay, for our final segment, let's shift from the complexities of global affairs to the fundamental building blocks of life itself, a scientific spark.
Yes, let's end on something truly fascinating from basic science. Researchers have made a breakthrough regarding the origin of life.
Oh, tell us more.
They've shown how amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, could have spontaneously attached themselves to RNA molecules.
Spontaneously? Under what conditions?
Under conditions simulating the early Earth. They used relatively simple molecules called thioesters as a kind of chemical bridge. This helps answer a long-standing question about how protein synthesis might have begun.
Wow. So connecting RNA and proteins right at the start, what's the big picture significance?
It's huge, really.
Yeah.
It potentially bridges the gap between the theoretical RNA world, where RNA did everything, and the protein world we have now, where proteins do most of the cellular work.
So it gives us a plausible pathway.
Exactly. A plausible chemical pathway for how RNA could have started directing the assembly of the very first simple proteins. It fills a major gap in understanding how life's complex machinery could have emerged from simpler chemistry, like finding a key instruction manual for early life.
That is truly mind-bending stuff, a fantastic insight to end on. And that wraps up our deep dive for today. From market jitters and tariff tangles to diplomatic maneuvers and the very origins of life, there's certainly a lot to keep track of. This has been an AI-generated podcast commentary. Please re-verify the content before use.